What's up, guys? My name is Zach. Welcome to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development. I'm super hyped to launch this. I'll have Facecam going in a little bit. I had some technical issues, but what I wanted to do is share with you guys my Dogmatika Invoked Dragoon deck. This has been by far the most competitive success I've had with a deck in terms of consistency, power, etc., etc. I'm going to kind of get into a breakdown of the deck, what it looks like, and then I'm going to show you guys a really awesome deck builder that I've kind of developed that will kind of be going live in about the next week or so. I won't take any more of your time. My goal is to let the videos and the content speak for itself. I'm really excited that you're here, and thanks for coming out to see what we got going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start, and I'm just gonna do the starters to begin with. So you're gonna see me talk a lot about card rolls. I'm gonna refer to them a little bit differently than you might be used to, and my hope is to help change your frame of mind with that too. So all of the starters I'm going to show you are cards that create and complete a line of play by themselves that end on a threat. So something your opponent has to either negate the effects of, remove from the field, or just, you know, bait out a negate in order to play the game. So starting out, we have 3 Alistair the Invoker, and then triple Magical Meltdown, 1 set rotation, and 1 terraforming. So these 8 starters, all each by themselves, produce Makaba, which at a bare minimum is a monster negate. At best, depending on what's in your hand, is an omni negate. So these all create that threat by themselves. And then we have 2 Perform Age Trick Clown. So this card has been a tech of mine that I really appreciate, and is a really good starter for the deck. So by itself, the threat it creates is Dragoon through making Verte Anaconda. You link this into Artemis, bring itself back, and then make Verte. Paired with the Alistair, you can make Alistair into Almirage, and then use Invocation, ditching this from hand to make the Makaba, bring itself back with Trick Clown, and then link that and Almirage into a Verte, getting you Verte, Makaba, and Dragoon. After that, we have 3 Servant. This card by itself is going to basically get you a window with a floor. You know, so typical Servant stuff, very unfair advantage, can also get you Ecclesia to search punishment should you choose. But this card by itself, again, produces essentially a floodgate plus a monster negate. And then 2 Ecclesia. This card by itself will search Dogmatika Punishment, so the threat it creates is a pop 2 if you send Elder Entity Entis, or a pop 1 with a follow-up if you send something like a Titaniclad or an App Cologne. And then the last of our starters is a Red Eyes Fusion. So again, just getting Dragoon. The last kind of pseudo starter I will include in here, if you want to classify it as a placeholder card, you can please feel free to do so. It's Pot of Prosperity. So we run about, I want to say 16 starters in the deck. So what that means is going first, if you don't see any of those 16 starters and you use Pot for 6, you got about a 96-98% chance somewhere in there of seeing one of those starters. So it does so much for the deck, guarantees consistency, guarantees opening power cards and power plays. So Pot of Prosperity is something I consider a pseudo starter in the deck, just given ratios, but we'll hop more into that when we get into the deck builder. After that, we'll move on to the superior extenders. So in that, we have 1 Fleur-de-Lis, 1 Maximus, 1 Corabane, and 1 Light Stage. So these 4 cards do a lot. The main ones you'll probably think about in particular are these 3. Obviously, pairing with Alistair, you'll create, again, a Makaba plus a Dragoon, simply making Verte with Alistair, and then using these lights for Invocation. Light Stage is also just, again, searching the Corabane, and does a lot in Rogue and just different back row matchups to force activations or just clear problematic cards. And then, again, Maximus, just kind of another one of those superior extenders that can pair with Alistair. You know, should they Ash it, should they negate it, you can continue to move forward by linking into Almirage and Secure Gardena. So the idea behind superior extenders that you want to play are cards that when you pair them with a starter are going to create either an additional threat or an improved threat, right? So just Alistair is Makaba, but Alistair plus Corabane is going to be Makaba plus Dragoon, right? As for the bombs of the deck, kind of those more important power cards that require setup, we're dealing with 2 Invocation and 1 Schism. This is more or less straightforward. Again, I don't consider any of these engine requirements. I feel engine requirements are cards that will never get any better as the game progresses. These can get better or become live at early, mid, or late game and have a devastating impact. Whereas engine requirements, things like Driver, Dark Magician, Red Eyes, they're just not going to be good regardless of when you see them, right? And then moving on to the defensive cards, we have one Called by the Grave and one Dogmatika Punishment. You could play more Punishment if you choose. If you're looking for other alternative routes to deal with hand traps, Instant Fusion with Millennium Eyes is a solid choice that can also fulfill the role of an extender to pair with Alistair, so you can make an Invoked Fusion plus Dragoon. But it's up to your preference. So far, these ratios have been perfectly fine. Again, I've floated back and forth between a couple of these, but it just depends on your preference. So next, on the defensive side, we have Triple Droplet. This card is amazing for this deck specifically to send unwanted things like any of your field spells, the Verte Anaconda, or any of your Dogmatika monsters that have fulfilled their purpose once Floor has hit the field and has resolved. It just does so much for the deck. Droplet is definitely a solid choice. And then we have 3 Gamma, pretty straightforward. A majority of your deck is spell heavy and does not commit to monsters until your spells have fully resolved, so Gamma is a pretty easy choice. If you want to play Imperm and cut the Driver for an extra slot, you can do that, especially with already running Dark Magician and Red Eyes. You know, you're decreasing your chances of seeing any type of engine requirement. And then the last of our defense stuff is Triple Ash Blossom, pretty standard and pretty straightforward. And then last for the deck, our 3 engine requirements are 1 Dark Magician, 1 Red Eyes, and 1 Driver. These are cards, again, that will never get better regardless of how much the game progresses, cards you never want to see in your hand, and when you do see them, they effectively act as a dead slot, right? So those are our engine requirements. And that's it for the main deck, bringing us to a solid 40. Onto the extra deck. Starting off, typical Verte Dragoon standard package for some of the Dogmatika stuff. 1 Titaniclad, 2 Entis, and a Psyframe Lord Omega. If you're looking for something fun to do, I recommend cutting 1 Omega, 1 Entis, and 1 Secure Garden in this extra deck to run a Rebarian Shark, a number 104, and a number C104. Maximus can send Rebarian Shark to stack the rank up magic, the 7th one on your deck, and it just does a lot, and it's really, really cool, really powerful, but I wouldn't go beyond a local level with it. But it is a neat tech if you're looking for something different. For the Shaddoll package, very standard of 1 Winda, 1 App Clone, and 1 Construct. I would still keep the Construct in here solely because it is nice to add and send Schism off App Clone, guaranteeing that you don't waste any extra cards in your hand as a discard, and then dumping Construct through, Maximus to add that back. For the Invoke package, we have 1 Algides, 1 Purgatrio, and 1 Makaba. Pretty standard. You can up the Makabas if you like. I generally find myself only going into 2 Invoked Fusions a game, and it usually ends up being Makaba and Algides. But again, you can change those ratios to see how you want to think. And then for the most part, just having a couple extra slots in here like Purgatrio or one of these 2 to banish with Prosperity is nice. And then for our basic links, 1 Almirage, 1 Secure Gardener, and 1 Artemis. Artemis is in here mainly for the Trick Clown, even though you can use it with the Alistair, but this is the only thing that you can link Trick Clown into to make itself come back to then, turn into Anaconda. Secure Gardener I've kept in here just because it is nice if they stop the Alistair with an Ash or an Imperm or something like that, that you can just continue into Secure Gardener, guaranteeing that a card like Maximus could be live, to get further advantage. So that is the extra deck. And then last is our side deck. And I've kind of changed how I side. I no longer side for format-specific matchups. I just side purely for what's the blowouts going first and what's the blowouts going second. That hits all matchups, and I just leave it at that. And it's been very, very successful. So 3 Solemn Judgment, 2 Solemn Scoldings, and 1 Imperial Order. So the theory behind this, right, that has been really, really well for me is I don't need to sit here and ponder what's the best choice for the meta decks like Dragon Link, you know, Zoo Eldritch, things like that, when every deck can just like hard lose to a Solemn. You know, you don't have to worry about what's the right card when I can just Solemn Judgment the Zeus summon, things like that. So that's kind of the mentality I've taken with this. Imperial Order is also really good in this deck because you can send it for cost off droplets once you're done with it, and then just kind of move on with the game. Sorry about that, my my mic died, but just for the last piece of the side deck stuff for the Spell Trap piece, for just the going second piece, triple Hey Trunade, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, and 1 Red Reboot. These are kind of the going second pieces for the Spell Trap removal. These two are pretty self-explanatory through Red Reboot and Harpy's Feather Duster. Hey Trunade is just a big card that I've been a pretty big fan of, just because I'm not a big fan of the discard for things like Twin Twisters, but if you are more concerned about Schism or things that, you know, you want to get rid of before they meet the time in which they activate in main phase 1, you know, feel free to do it. But again, this forces activations without requiring a discard. But if you have Lightning Storm and want it to have something that can fill, you know, multiple roles, then that is perfectly fine as well. And then the last bit of the side deck, we have triple Dark Ruler No More and 1 Mystic Mine. Again, this is the monster side. You just want to be able to break the board or at least get rid of stuff so you can play the game. This is where that ends up. And then with that, that's the main, the extra, and the side. I will not waste your time, and let's go ahead and hop into the deck builder that I am really excited to show you guys. Here we go. All right, what's up everyone? This is it. This is what I've been screwing around with for months that I'm so excited to share with you, and is going to hinge on so much of my content. This is the deck builder. I am not going to ramble. I am just going to show you exactly how it functions, how it works, and how you can get access to it. A lot of this will be live within about a week or two on ideally my website, my Patreon, all that kind of stuff. My goal is to empower players to have tools to improve themselves without having to dump hundreds of dollars into play sets of crazy expensive cards. So let's go ahead and hop into it. This is the deck builder. There are basically 5 basic steps, and then you're just good to go, and that's it. So the most of it is pretty much what you're familiar with. The first thing, input all the different cards you're running. Again, this is the exact same list that you just saw me do the deck profile for. So Alistair, Meltdown, Terraforming, etc., etc. You pick what role you think they fit into based on this little drop-down menu that comes up for each one. After you've done all that, you just put how many of each card you're using, and then how many cards are in your deck, and then you just hit View Deck, and we're here. There's a lot of stuff. I get it. I'm going to break down each part and hopefully edit things so I can kind of focus on a chunk. So this kind of left-hand side chunk, these 4 big bar graphs, what you're looking at is each chart just shows a little bit different kind of stuff, but more or less the same thing. So the top 2 are showing the chances of you getting at least one of each card roll going first. So right here for my starters, for example, I got a 96+% chance to see at least one starter in my hand. That's exactly what you want, over 9 times out of 10. That is incredible. Just to give an idea of how fluid this is, I'm going to go back to the deck list. Let's say, you know, I talked about Prosperity being a starter. You don't feel like that. We'll go ahead and move that to a placeholder, and we'll go back to the dashboard. And things have changed a little bit. We've gone from 96 to 93. So again, pretty straightforward on how this functions. Whatever you change, this thing will respond to. But again, over 9 times out of 10, you're seeing a starter that's exactly what you want. Over here, chances of getting at least 2 of a card roll going first. So for people that like those 2 card combos, this is really good for you. And then here at the bottom, chances of getting at least 1 of each card roll going second, and then 2 of at least card roll going second. So again, a little bit higher chances here on the bottom end, just because again, you got a 6 card hand down here, you got a 5 card hand up here. Kind of in this upper right-ish section, maybe a little more the middle right. This is kind of a placeholder calculator, so you can basically hit this drop down. It's going to show you any card that you play in your deck. So I'm going to just say I'm sick of drawing Driver. I want to figure out chances of seeing Driver off some placeholders. So what you can see here is in a 40 card deck, you know, this is what this is telling me. Well, basically, it'll actually calculate based on the deck, the amount you put right here for your deck total. It's using that. So, sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. There we go. So if you're looking off the top for 6 cards for something like Pot of Prosperity, you have at least a 17% chance, more or less, of seeing it going first or second off a placeholder search like that. If you wanted to look at a different card, like say Pot of Duality, you know, you're looking more like 8%. So whatever you do, it moves with you. Over here on the far right is just a quick little reminder list that just shows you all the card rolls you put in and how many of each roll that you have. And then here at the very bottom is probably what you're most familiar with, the hypergeometric probability calculator. You put in whatever you're trying to see. So again, we're usually trying to see at least one when people run these tests. You know, a hand size, how many you want to open. So like if I had, let's say again, those 16 starters, we get about 93.54% chance of seeing at least one of those starters going first. And again, that lines up here again, just because of the math there. But again, this is just a basic hypergeometric calculator. So my goal is this is everything you want, everything you need. Aside from just play testing, this is the deck building tool that I want everyone to have. It's amazing. It's helped me so much think about things in so many different ways. So I'm really excited to share this with you guys shortly. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I am excited to move forward with all of you guys. I will see you all in the next one. Later.